Affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Then you may be seated. And then because we're being recorded, I'll please ask you to state and spell your first and last name.
Carl, C-A-R-L, Hop, H-O-P as in Papa, P as in Papa.
All right, and Mr. Hop, there's water there if you want me, but whenever you're ready, Mr. Overstreet.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hop, where are you currently employed?
With Glock Incorporated.
And how long have you been employed with Glock?
It'll be 12 years this summer.
And what is your current position within Glock?
Commercial sales manager for the Northwest.
And have you been the commercial sales manager the entire time you've been with Glock?
That's correct.
And so you're actually local?
That's correct.
And so I really just have a few questions, primarily around not necessarily Glock's manufacturing process, but kind of the process they take in order to conduct some sort of quality assurance before Glocks leave their facility. So that's where I'm going to primarily focus. Are you familiar with that process that Glock goes through before the firearms leave the facility?
Yes.
Have you actually visited I'm referring to as a plant or a facility or something like that, where these Glocks are manufactured and go through some sort of quality assurance?
Yes.
And so are you aware of whether or not all Glocks are test fired, or at least were back in 2018, whether all Glocks are test fired before they leave the facility?
Yes, every firearm is tested before it leaves the facility.
And has that changed over the years?
In limited amounts it has. It went from two test firing rounds to a single round.
Okay. And as far as you're aware, back in 2018, Glocks were at least test fired at least once?
Correct.
Okay. And sometimes does that change based on the availability of ammunition, things like that?
It has, yes.
Okay. And so can you kind of describe to the jury how that test firing process is conducted? Whether it's somebody actually standing there holding and shooting a gun, or whether it's a machine that's doing the process. Can you describe that process?
Sure. After each firearm is manufactured, assembled, it's placed into a bin. These bins are then loaded onto a cart. That cart is taken by hand to the testing range, where each one is loaded into a fixture. Once in the fixture, using a button connected to air compression, the button's pressed, firing the firearm. Then it's removed, placed back in the rack. Once everything's done, the whole rack is removed. The barrels are scrubbed with a brush, pistols wiped down, and then they are taken to be packaged for shipment.
Okay. And so in this process where you said they're in like on a rack of some sort, how many, and if you don't know exact, but about how many are placed on the rack when they're all fired?
I would estimate it's a two-sided rack, and I don't know for certain, but I would estimate that it's 10 per row and then 3 high. So 30 per side, so 60.
So about 60 guns. Are they all fired at the same time?
In sequence, yes. One after another.
One gun after another.
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
So you hear boom, 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 boom,
Yeah,
60 times.
Correct. One pistol goes into the rack, button's pressed, it's removed, next one, continue on until complete.
Okay. And now, when these guns are fired, are they all near each other when each gun is fired?
Yes, they're all in the same room. Everyone is on the rack except for the one pistol being shot, which is within arm's length of all the others.
Okay. And after this process is taking place where the guns are fired, does somebody then manually at least run a bore brush or something through the barrel?
Yes, every pistol has a bore brush gone through it.
Okay. And what's the purpose of running the bore brush?
To remove large pieces of unburned powder or carbon, to have a relatively clean product when it arrives to the end customer.
Okay. And besides the bore brush, and I think you said maybe a general wipe down, make sure there's no smudges or stuff like that, I'm assuming. Is there any deeper cleaning that is done? Is the the interior of the trigger mechanism or anything like that? Is that all taken apart and cleaned?
It is not.
Is there any effort to take, say, a Q-tip or other wiping brush in order to get in all the grooves of the Glock in order to clean out any potential residue that might be left behind?
There is not.
So, in general, the extent of the cleaning is a bore brush and a possible wipe down of the exterior of the gun?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hopp. I think that's all the questions I have.
All right, any cross-examination?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Hopp. I think we met at an earlier hearing. I'm Lisa Maxfield, here with Ms. Brophy. You're the sales manager for the Northwest, is that right?
Commercial sales manager, yes.
And what territory does that cover?
Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Northern Nevada, and Alaska.
Big honk.
Yes.
And when you say commercial sales manager, that means that you're in charge of what gets sold to the various outlets like stores.
Retail stores, distributors.
So do you visit the stores here in Oregon?
I do.
And do you also visit gun shows?
I do not.
You've been to a gun show?
I have.
Personally, though, not
Yes.
part of your job. And was that here in Oregon?
I have been to a gun show in Oregon, yes.
Is it true that Glock has about 65% of the market of handguns here in the U.S.?
65% of all firearms sold?
All handguns.
All handguns sold? I don't know that that's the case.
How many do you think are sold here in your territory in a year?
I could only guess. I don't know how many are totally sold. We do everything through distribution, so I don't have a tally of every single firearm that goes from distribution through the U.S. into the state.
Okay. Don't you get commissions based on how many are sold?
I do not. I'm a direct salary employee.
Does Glock sell their slide and barrel assembly separately?
We do not.
And has that always been true in the 12 years you've been there?
Correct, yes.
You're aware, though, that slides and barrels are sold within gun stores?
Yes.
And you're aware that they're sold at gun shows?
I would imagine that they would be, yes.
And do you know whether they're sold online?
I know that there are slides and barrels for firearms sold online, yes.
What about the Glock slide and barrel?
I have seen the Glock slide and barrel sold online.
And do you know how that secondary market, where those slides and barrels come from?
I don't know for certain, but I have a very good idea where they come from.
And what's that?
That somebody purchases the complete firearm, takes it apart, and sells it off in pieces.
And is there profit there?
I would think there would have to be.
Do you know whether if I bought a Glock slide and barrel on a gun show, if I could pay cash for that?
I would imagine so, but I don't know for certain.
But I wouldn't need to register it,
A slide and barrel is not registered, no.
and I wouldn't need to show ID.
I wouldn't think you would, no.
And the same thing at a gun show. If I bought a slide and barrel at a gun show, I could pay cash if I wanted.
Slide and barrel, yes.
And I wouldn't have to show ID.
I wouldn't think you would.
But if I bought a Glock slide and barrel online, I'd have to give my credit card number.
If you're paying with a credit card, yeah.
And you know another way to pay online?
Sure, PayPal or
But still,
money orders, or
there's still a credit card at the base of that sale, is there not?
I would imagine most situations, but then again, I don't know. Not my area.
I understand, but you bought things online, you would have to give a name,
Sure.
and you'd have to give your address.
You'd have to give a shipping address, sure.
I don't think I have any other questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
Just one question. I just want to make sure it's clear that when you say these Glock slide and barrels are available online, that's true, but you're saying, but not from Glock, not the manufacturer.
That is correct. If you see a slide and barrel, it was originally sold with a frame attached to it.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
May the witness be excused.
For the state, yes.
And for defense? All right, you can sit down. Thank you. All right,
For the final time, I believe we're going to go ahead and recall Detective Merrill.
okay. And since it's another day, we'll have you sworn in again.
Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. And then you can remove your mask. And then for the record, please state and spell your first and last name.
Anthony Merrill, Anthony, Merrill, Merrill.
All right, when you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. Detective Merrill, we're going to cover several topics this afternoon, and specifically several exhibits. So I'll try not to jump around too much on you. Try to go in order here.
Okay.
But first, I want to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 64. It might just take a moment for us to get that up there. There we go. Yeah, so that's marked as State's Exhibit 64. Do you know what we're looking at in this photograph?
Yes, this is the ghost gun Glock kit. It was located at the public storage unit of Nancy Brophy's.
Okay, it looks like there's some cardboard behind it. Was this photograph actually taken out at the public storage unit?
Yes. I believe that's the box that it was found in.
Okay. And were you there that day as part of that search?
Yes.
Okay. And was it Detective McDaniel that alerted you to this, the Glock case that was in this box?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And were you part of the group that recovered this box and ultimately inspected it and had
Yes.
photographs taken?
Yes.
Okay. And is this generally what it looked like when you first opened it?
It is. Yes.
Your Honor, the state would move to admit State's Exhibit 64.
No objection.
64 is admitted.
And speaking of the public storage unit, as part of this investigation, did you learn whether or not Nancy Brophy had rented a public storage unit in her name?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall, by either speaking with the public storage management or reviewing documentation provided to you, when Ms. Brophy started renting that storage unit?
I believe it was December 8th, 2017. December 8th, 2017.
Okay. And that storage unit that the rental began on December 8th, 2017 and was under Nancy Brophy's name, was that the same public storage unit that you conducted that search at where the ghost gun was located?
Yes, it was.
And I'm sorry, maybe you don't have to tell us exactly when, but do you recall when that search warrant was executed on that search? I'm sorry,
September 7th, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 2018.
So I'm going to go back and talk to you about some of the other search warrants that you obtained during this case. Did you also apply for and obtain and execute a search warrant for various bank accounts.
Yes.
Specifically, did you execute a warrant on a Wells Fargo bank account in Dan Brophy's name?
Yes, we did.
And also at Wells Fargo, a mortgage account?
I believe so, yes. Yes.
And then did you also obtain and execute a search warrant on several accounts at On Point Credit Union?
Yes, we did.
And as part of those accounts, was one of them a joint account with Dan and Nancy Brophy?
That's my memory, yes.
Was there also something that maybe resembled a business account that appeared to be related to Nancy Brophy and another associate?
Yes, I recall that.
So you got all these you obtained these search warrants, you executed them. Did the banks actually respond and give you all of the banking records?
Yes, they did.
And then with those records, did you then transfer them to forensic accountant Bob Azor?
I did, yes.
And then did you proceed to work with, is Bob Azor a sworn officer?
No, he's a non-sworn civilian analyst with the Portland Police Bureau.
Okay, so did you work with Mr. Azor throughout this investigation to grasp and kind of look for evidence within those financial records?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So I want to talk to you for a minute about your interactions with an individual named Andrew Bresciani.
Yes.
Did you write a report in relation to a interview you did with Mr. Bresciani?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Safe to say it's a pretty short report.
It is, yes.
Was that a phone interview or an interview you did in person?
It was a phone interview. You know, we had located a receipt for all my brothers moving. I believe it was called the business. All my brothers, I think it was all my brothers moving business. We found a receipt during the search warrant at the residence of Nancy Brophy's in the kitchen. And I followed up with a phone call interview with that business. Mr. Bresciani answered the phone. And, you know, essentially to me, it's a moving company. We wanted to find out where items were moved to. So it was basically an information gathering phone call is the way I would categorize that.
Was that a phone call that was recorded?
No.
Were you even sure that Mr. Bresciani was the right person that you needed to talk to?
No. So I was calling there to inquire who would be able to assist us with this information to follow up on where possessions of Miss Brophy's were moved to or where they might be located.
Okay. And you've reviewed your, albeit short, report.
Yes.
Did you also review your own notes from that conversation?
I did, yes.
And did you recall Mr. Bresciani relaying to you that Miss Brophy had told him that she intended to move to either Nevada or Arizona?
I do recall that, yes.
And is that something that you noted and included in your report?
It was, yes.
And then do you also recall whether or not Mr. Bresciani relayed to you that Miss Brophy inquired with him about their privacy policy or their disclosure policy?
No, I don't recall that.
Okay. And so further, he didn't elaborate then, I suppose, that Miss Brophy was concerned about somebody that might be trying to look for her and that they wouldn't disclose that information, or would?
I don't recall that. I recall Mr. Bresciani being extremely helpful, cooperative, and trying to remember to the best of his ability the phone conversation he had with the person. And I don't recall him saying that.
Okay.
And I would like to think I would have documented that had I heard it.
That would have been something that would have been an interest to you.
Yes, absolutely.
And so now I want to talk to you about the possibility that Mr. Bresciani talked to somebody else. So I guess, you know, because I want to just talk to you about what you know. If Mr. Bresciani said or claimed that he did say that to somebody about this disclosure policy, and that he had talked to maybe more than one detective. Is your testimony today that that detective at least wasn't you?
That's correct. It was not me.
So if Mr. Bresciani talked to another detective or just another person, that you're saying that's fine, but that wasn't you.
It was not me.
Okay. I want to talk to you about a couple other witnesses. Did you interview, or were you at least present or review the interviews for Rajender, maybe not saying that correctly, Singh and Arun Singh?
Yes.
Were you actually present for both those interviews?
Yes, I was.
Just to the best of your recollection, maybe while reviewing this, was there a little bit of a language barrier?
Yeah, a little bit. I had to, repeat some questions and have them repeat some answers just to make sure I was getting it clear.
Okay, but for the most part, did you feel like you both were understanding each other?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during those interviews, those were recorded, correct?
Those were recorded, yes.
So have you had a chance to go back and either listen to the recording or review the transcript?
I listened to the recording, yes.
Okay. And in listening back to that recording, do you recall, well, I'm going to ask you about both of them, but specifically I'll ask you about Mr. Singh. Do you recall kind of what he was trying to relay to you about what Miss Brophy was thinking that her house was worth?
Yes. After reviewing the recording again with my interview with Mr. Singh, I recall, and I noted from that audio recording, he had mentioned that Miss Brophy talked to him about selling her house, and that he said, I might be interested. Let me know if you sell your house. And then he stated that Miss Brophy said she didn't want to sell it for $425,000. And then he stated she wanted more like $600,000. And then he responded that was, or he thought, I don't know if it was unclear to me if he responded that was too much for him or that he thought that was too much and he just didn't say anything at that time frame.
Okay. So according to what Mr. Singh was telling you, he wasn't saying that Nancy Brophy was offering it to him for $425,000. Doesn't sound like that's what you're saying.
Not the way I understood it, listening to his answer, no.
But that Miss Brophy thought that would be too low.
Yes.
Okay. And was it your impression from the answers you were getting from Mr. Singh that he actually really wasn't, after that initial conversation, interested in purchasing the Brophy home?
Yeah, he basically said it was too much for him.
That Nancy Brophy wanted too much money for the house?
Correct.
Okay. So I want to turn then to Mrs. Singh and ask you the same question. Did she indicate to you what she believed that Miss Brophy thought the house was worth and what she wanted for it from them?
Yes, so she mentioned when she had learned that Miss Brophy might want to sell her house, she mentioned, Miss Singh mentioned, she had actually checked the tax assessment value online of the house, and she recalled it was somewhere of a value between $600,000 to possibly $700,000 in value, is what she recalled looking up. She said that a week before Mr. Brophy's murder, that she had a conversation with Miss Brophy, and she mentioned, she began saying this, I'm going to kind of read this off to you the way I heard it on the recording. Miss Singh said, she said, if you offer me $650,000, she will not take it. She will not accept it, or closer. And then she corrected herself and she said something to the effect of either or oh, no. If you offer $425,000, I will not accept that. Nancy Brophy said this to me.
Okay, and I just want to make sure because you're saying things like she, and we're talking about potentially two female people part of this conversation. Right. Are you, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Miss Singh is saying that Nancy was saying that if you offered me $425,000, that I would not take that. Miss Brophy would not take that.
That's the way I understood Miss Singh's interview, yes.
Not that Mrs. Brophy was offering it for $425,000.
Correct.
And then what did Miss Singh relay to you in that conversation about her desire to purchase that?
She said she actually walked through it with Miss Brophy. I believe she had her children with her, Miss Singh's children, and she said that once she looked at the house and the property, that she was no longer interested for that price range.
At any time in these interviews, did you ever get the impression that the Singhs were actually in a position or wanting to follow through with any sort of purchase of this home?
Not after interviewing him about it, no.
And when was that interview conducted?
January 9th, 2019. So January 9th, 2019
Okay, so
for both
about
of them.
6 months after the homicide is when that interview took place.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, Detective, I believe you said that the conversation that you had with Miss Singh, when she spoke to Nancy about purchasing the home, I think you said that that was a week or so before the homicide, but I'm not sure exactly what you said, so I'm gonna have you clarify.
The interview that I conducted was January 9th.
Yes.
But then, yes, I'll check my notes just to make sure I read that correctly. Yeah, I had here that September, approximately 1 week, well, I have here 1 week before, yes, September, approximately 1 week before Miss Brophy was arrested.
Okay,
I think I said before Mr. Brophy was murdered before, and I
that's where I think
made a
the
mistake,
confusion
yeah.
lies. So the conversation
Yes,
about the purchase was approximately a week before Miss Brophy's arrest.
that's correct. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
So I want to talk to you about the investigation revealing that Ms. Brophy possibly purchased a slide and barrel on eBay. At some point in this investigation, did you actually receive and review documents provided by eBay?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 81.
Ooh, teeny. Huh? You have a magnifying glass? The itty bitty part I needed to see, thank you.
If you could take a look at these documents and see if those are the complete documents provided to you from eBay.
Okay. Yes.
And are those accompanied by an affidavit from the custodian at eBay providing those documents to you,
Yes, they are.
indicating that's the complete records provided?
Correct.
And so I'm going to have you, let me take a look, direct you to a certain document. Have you look at, these aren't marked, but in order, it's page 3.
Okay.
And I'll have you look at, does there appear to be a date indicating when the account was registered?
I think this might be the wrong one.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think this one says account status deleted, maybe?
That might be just the
Is that-
current status. I'm gonna have you.
Oh, okay, okay.
read about, does it,
Are we on page 3? Just
page 3, yeah.
Yes, so the date, it says user registration date, February 19th, 2018.
And Detective, during the course of your investigation, you had learned that Ms. Brophy has visited and purchased a firearm on February 17th, 2018
That's correct.
at the gun
Yes.
show.
Yes,
And that was the gun that she had turned over to you the morning of the murder.
correct.
And so what we're seeing in that document right there is that 2 days after the purchase of that complete firearm, that she's registering an eBay account.
Yes, that's correct.
And in reviewing documentation, receipts, and shipping information, did you learn that Ms. Brophy won a auction for a Glock 17 Gen 4 sliding barrel?
Yes, yes, I did.
And that was on February 23rd, 2018?
Correct.
4 days after registering for her eBay account?
Correct, yes.
In reviewing shipping information provided by Adam Sale with the United States Postal Service, were you able to confirm that that eBay slide and barrel was actually delivered to the Brophy home on February 28th, 2018?
Yes, I was.
In reviewing these eBay documents, were you able to determine after that February 28th, 2018 date that Ms. Brophy actually canceled her eBay account?
Yes.
And
Yes,
I'm
I
sorry, I
was.
said canceled, I meant to say deleted her eBay account?
Yes, deleted.
Your Honor, at this point, I'd move to admit State's Exhibit 81, the eBay documents.
no objection.
All right, 81 is admitted.
So Detective Merrill, I kind of just asked you about this a little bit when I referred to Adam Sale, the employee of the United States Postal Service. He's an investigator for the United States Postal Service.
Yeah, he is.
Did you employ him to track both the ghost gun package and the slide and barrel from eBay package?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did he provide you with shipping information?
He did, yes.
And on both of those, was there confirmation that the ghost gun package and the eBay slide and barrel package had in fact been delivered to the Brophies?
Yes, yes.
Now specifically, the ghost gun package, was that one intercepted at some point?
Yes, he noted and highlighted that it was placed on hold to be at the nearest post office for pickup, or the local post office in Beaverton.
And was that delivered or picked up sometime in early January 2018?
Yes, it was.
And then the eBay slide and barrel delivery, that was actually delivered to the Brophy residence, according to Mr. Sale?
Yes, that's correct.
So you've reviewed, I don't want to say every single piece of video available in this case, but nearly every bit, is that a fair statement?
I believe so. Almost, probably.
Including video that turned out to not really be relevant.
Correct.
And did you also, we're gonna talk about the video here in a moment, but did you also obtain and execute a search warrant to seize and search Nancy Brophy's minivan?
Yes.
I'm going to show you two exhibits. The first one will be State's Exhibit 54. as part of this seizure and search, were photographs taken of Ms. Brophy's van in police storage?
Yes, they were.
Is this at the Rivergate storage facility?
It is, yeah, the police storage facility for vehicles.
I'm gonna have you take a look at what's up on the screen there, State's Exhibit 54. And specifically in this photograph, was there something that you took note of regarding the van?
Yes. So I took note of the sticker. It's a parking church sticker, the little white sticker here in the windshield, in the lower driver's side corner.
We're gonna zoom in on that sticker for you. Okay. Now, is there any significance to that sticker to you?
Yes, in comparing the video to the vehicle we had been observing that we believe it was Nancy Brophy's vehicle, we see a sticker very prominently placed in that same location in different video sources when it was downtown near Oregon Culinary Institute.
And specifically on the video that faces eastbound on the Goose Hollow westbound platform. So, and I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Of course, I'm going to mix up my directions here. The video facing westbound on the westbound platform. So the video that apparently shows Miss Brophy's minivan coming into downtown at 6:39 a.m.
That's correct. Yes.
Is that sticker, is a sticker of some sort visible to you in that video?
Yes, it's very obvious in that video when you slow the video down and pause it.
Okay.
And when it just plays through, you can see it as well.
Okay. And to be fair, you can't get this level of quality in that video, is that
No,
true?
no.
You can just see a white sticker-looking object in the window.
Yes, in the same exact location. Yes.
I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 55 now. And again, is this a photograph that was taken at the Rivergate storage facility?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And anything of significance in this photograph to you?
Yes, this is the very obvious scratch defect in the side, the driver's side of the minivan, just above the wheel well, below the gas door. The, what appears to be obvious rust, and I recall it being rust from seeing it in person.
Okay. And in reviewing the video, did this relate to anything that you were seeing in the video?
Yes, specifically in the Bellagio's video, when the van passes in front of Bellagio's westbound on Jefferson from Southwest 17th Avenue, you can see, as the van passes by, you can see this defect. It's consistent with the same defect or scratch in the same location.
Okay. And at this point, the state would move to admit State's Exhibits 54 and 55.
No objection.
54 and 55 are admitted.
I'm going to hold off on one of the videos for just a moment. I want to go back and talk about, did you work with, I think you already said this and Ms. Guay confirmed it. Did you work with Ms. Guay in determining relevant locations and dates and times where you wanted to know where Ms. Brophy was or where Dan Brophy was?
Yes, we did.
And did you also become aware of Ms. Brophy possibly heading out her phone possibly heading out Highway 26 towards the coast and pinging off a tower near a public gun range?
Yes.
And did you recall, as part of your investigation, reviewing the back of the receipt from the gun show gun?
Yes.
And did that appear to have some vague, I suppose, directions to that public gun range?
It did, yes.
Now, you yourself, have you driven that stretch of road?
Yes, I have.
Did you or can you recall a time where you drove that stretch of road where you determined the time and or distance from the Brophy home to the gun range?
Yes, the time that I drove from the Brophy home to that location uh, was approximately 43 minutes, and that's from the front door of the Brophy's house to actually one of the gun range locations off the exit. So you have to take the exit, drive up a gravel road for a ways before you can get to the beginning of these firing ranges, I'd call them.
Okay. Now, I suppose you've been to various gun ranges over the course of your career.
Yes.
Um, I'm assuming most are probably law enforcement gun ranges.
Yes, mostly.
Have you been to private gun ranges as well?
A long time ago, I've been to an indoor one, yes.
Okay. And at indoor gun ranges, are those gun ranges where you have to check in or register to rent a lane or something like that?
Yes.
I don't know if you recall whether identification was required or not, or
I believe it was, yes. I believe we had to sign in as well.
now, is that different from this public shooting range that you visited out off of Highway 26?
Yes, absolutely. You just drive in. There's nobody at the exit. There's not a booth with a security guard or person that works there. It's just open to the public. You drive in and you drive up a gravel road. It goes a little bit elevated into sort of a hilly area in that location. As you finally get up the gravel road, it seemed like that was another 5-minute drive from the exit. Then you start to see the first gun range, and then there's several more after that on either side of the gravel road. And they'll have like a little parking area, and there were some cement, kind of knee-high cement blocks, kind of arranged seemingly to where you would park and maybe lay out some of your equipment before you start preparing to shoot.
Okay. So no facilities or anything?
No,
And no monitors or rangers out there or anything?
nope, it's wide open. There's no, the only people you see up there are other people that are shooting if they're there at the time you go.
And so just from your experience with that, when you go up there, let's say, I know as a detective, you probably carry your firearm with you. And I suppose that's loaded at all times.
Yes.
If you were so inclined to go to this shooting range, park your car, how long could it take you to get out of your car and begin shooting?
Oh, very quickly. Within, you're getting out of your car, depending on how you're storing your gun. If you have a holster or if you have it in a kit or a box, you get out of your car, you can lay the kit down on that cement block or take it out of your holster and just walk up and start shooting. So if you can envision this, each one of these seem to always have like a big sort of dirt mound or hill at the back. I believe most of them have that. So you can just start firing into that. And then as you progress down the dirt or through the dirt road, there will be another range here, another one over here. So there's segregated from one another to be, to be safe.
And just in your training experience, how quickly can you shoot through a magazine, let's say of, well, how many rounds does your magazine carry?
So my service weapon is a Glock 17, 9mm, and I have a capacity of 17 rounds, live rounds in the magazine, one in the chamber at all times. So I always have 18 in the gun. And then usually I always have an additional magazine with another 17 round capacity. So about 35 rounds total.
And how quickly, if you just kept firing that gun, can you run through a 17 plus 1 round magazine?
Oh, extremely quickly. It's a semi-automatic, so it fires rapidly as fast as you can pull the trigger.
Okay, so as fast as you to pull your trigger finger?
Depressed back, depressed back, depressed back, and you can do it very quickly if your intention is to do so.
Okay, so is it safe to say that you could unload a magazine in less than 20 seconds?
I would say that's realistic.
How long does it take to drop an empty magazine and load a full magazine?
2 seconds, a second. Maybe I'm over exaggerating, but I would say a couple of seconds.
Okay. So to drop the magazine, do you just have to hit a button?
Yeah, as you're holding your handgun, there's a magazine release where your thumb is if you're right-handed. So like this, where you can release the magazine will just drop. If you don't catch it, it'll drop to the ground. And then you can just load another magazine just by slapping it up.
Okay. So drop, insert, few seconds.
Correct. Yeah, a
And-
few seconds to be on the conservative side.
Okay. So you can unload a magazine in 20 seconds, can reload in a matter of a few seconds, not reload, sorry, switch out your magazine for a full one.
Correct.
A few seconds, and then another 20 seconds to unload that magazine.
Sure, yes.
Okay. So to be conservative, I suppose, in under 45 seconds, could you rattle off 36 rounds?
I think you could, yes.
Now, for a beginner, that may not be as realistic. Is that fair?
Exactly. I agree.
So let's say it takes twice as long. 45 seconds, we're now at 1 minute and 30 seconds to get 36 rounds off?
Yeah, that's reasonable.
So I want to go back to a video, specifically a video compilation. I believe you already testified that you worked with Ms. Guay on identifying which videos would be appropriate for a video compilation.
Yes.
Okay. Make sure. Can we pull that one, please? So I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 21, previously been admitted into evidence. Here we go. If we can go ahead and pause that. Have you seen this video compilation in particular?
Yes.
So I want to actually let's go ahead and play a little bit of it here. Okay, let's go ahead and pause it there. Thank you. So Detective Merrill, was this a video of interest to you?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Did it have some more significance than some of the other video that you reviewed?
Yes, this is a video that shows a perspective that's as close as you can get with all the video resources we have of the location of the intersection of 17th and Jefferson Street, the northwest corner of that intersection. So that's the corner adjacent to Oregon Culinary Institute. Chef Brophy parked his truck just a little bit north of that, parallel parked it right there facing southbound. And then the doors and entryway that we've discussed earlier, the garage door and the man door, are just north of that intersection right there.
Okay. And so when you watched this video, what is it that you thought you were seeing that caused it to be of more significance to you?
So as I spend a lot of time with this, along with Detective Darren Posey, watching the top frame of this video image here in a bigger screen, it's a little more visible, but you can see that there's a crosswalk. The crosswalk is adjacent to the intersection of Southwest 17th Avenue and Jefferson Street. That crosswalk, may I?
Yeah, if you could please point to where you're talking about.
The crosswalk, when you have an image where you can see this a little better, is basically right in here. at the top of the screen. So that crosswalk, you're looking at, if you're standing out on the circle here at Goose Hollow, and you look up Southwest Jefferson Street towards this intersection of 17th Avenue, there's a crosswalk that crosses Southwest Jefferson from the north side to the south side. And it's one of those hash mark white, very distinctive crosswalks. It's big. And then there's a green bike lane. It comes down along the side as well that runs through that crosswalk. That crosswalk is a very good landmark for me, for anyone, I would say, when you're watching a video that's difficult to view and you're trying to make out something that might be coming from that area. So I use that crosswalk as a landmark, and in using it as a landmark, this vehicle that comes out, it's Nancy Brophy's van. I can see it coming out from the north side of Southwest 17th Avenue, so north of Jefferson Street, in the area of where Chef Brophy's truck was parked, near where the doors are, the garage door. I don't know exactly how far it came from, back from that location, but I see it appear coming out of that area and then turning right, or if you will, westbound on Jefferson Street. And when you slow this video down, it's very obvious. There's, I mean, it's 100% to me after viewing this hundreds of times.
And just on the map that the video is overlaid onto, so not the video, the map that's behind it, could you point to where you're describing that crosswalk?
Crosswalk is right about here.
Okay. So west of 17th.
Yes.
Okay.
Just west of 17th, crossing from north to south across Jefferson Street.
Okay. Can we go back to before where we see the van turn off of 17th? Okay. And so as we play this, I'm going to have you describe what it is you're seeing in relation to that crosswalk.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead and play.
Okay, if you can pause it maybe. So, and if you want to go back to demonstrate this again, I'm seeing the vehicle that later comes totally into frame, and we can show that it's the same vehicle. You can see it driving from this location here across southbound. Not coming westbound, it's coming southbound. So in other words, southbound here, and turning into the far lane opposite of this vehicle, so the southern lane. And that's the lane you want if you want to leave the area to go to the on-ramp to I-26. If you stay in this lane, that's more for the turning lane for Southwest 18th Avenue.
And then if we could play this to the end and pause. Play, there we go, and pause there. And so, as Ms. Gway described it, this is sort of simultaneous with the end of the previous video. And you've talked about this Bellagio video several times. So in seeing these in relation to each other, is that what you're talking about when you say that it's your belief that this is Ms. Brophy's van?
Yes, we're using these videos to put a puzzle together, right? To show the path of the vehicle. That's why we got as much video as we could in this area to try to basically illustrate the path of this vehicle. And another thing is the omission of the vehicle in the previous video up the street, which is the Affinity property management video we viewed before. That's the video right here. So if you want to try, I've done this, and so has Detective Posey. We've looked at this video before. You see Nancy Brophy's van turn out here from 17th, and you don't see that van anywhere here because it's not driving down that street. It's coming from here, turning.
Detective Merrill, on that point, I had asked you in one of your previous testimonies, I can't really pinpoint which one, but we talked about how you saw Ms. Brophy's van turning off of Columbia onto 17th at about 7:08,
Yes,
and then you don't see it again until this Goose Hollow video at 7:28, where it's turning off at 17th onto to Jefferson.
correct, yes.
And we talked about sort of how Miss Brophy must have been in this particular area for that 20-minute span. Is that what you're talking about when you talk about that affinity video, that you would have seen her, because Jefferson's a one-way street there, that you would have had to have seen her van coming up Jefferson westbound in order for that to not be true, that she's sort of stuck in this particular little area?
Yes, I mean, just to reiterate, when we saw the van the first time, not the first time, but the time the PGE camera picked it up, the PGE camera is over here and faces an angle here, but it only gives you somewhere in this vicinity of the maybe almost to the mid-block of a perspective. So when the van came by Bellagio's at 7:08 a.m. the first time, went around the circle, it's then picked up by the PGE camera coming through here, so eastbound on Columbia, and then that camera shows it turn northbound on Southwest 17th at approximately, again, 7:08 a.m. Then it goes out of frame right here. So 20 minutes later, and we can't find the vehicle anywhere else on the video, you see the vehicle come out here, southbound from 17th Avenue, and turn right or westbound on Jefferson Street. You do not see it on the Affinity video anywhere around 7:28 a.m.
And also, we don't have to spend much time on this, but between the 7:08 and 7:28, do you also not see the vehicle on that westbound looking Goose Hollow platform either, the one that we've been talking about?
Right, we spent a lot of time to see if we could see the van. After at 7:08, it was lost by the PGE camera going northbound on 17th towards Jefferson. We then started watching the Goose Hollow video to see if it would show an image of the vehicle cross the intersection and go where it later is seen again coming out of. We don't see that, but there are multiple light rail trains, MAX trains, that cross through the area that block our vision during that time frame. So it's possible that it crossed when one of those trains was going by, but we don't see the image of the van going that way
Sure. So
from that camera.
and could you just kind of briefly draw the direction that that those trains travel and why it would block that view?
Yeah, so they are coming from, this is the track right here, in the middle of Southwest 18th, coming southbound or northbound, and it crosses over and goes this direction. So it crosses that perspective from the westbound platform, yeah, Goose Hollow.
And does that directly, when those trains pass, and it sounds like you're saying there were several, when those trains pass, it directly blocks the view down Jefferson?
Yes, it does.
I have just a couple other brief photographs I want to show you to have you identify them. The first would be State's Exhibit 110. If our computer didn't freeze here, we'll do it. And actually, while we're waiting on that, Detective, I want to, the dates of March 26, 2018 and March 27th, 2018, was that a Monday and a Tuesday?
I believe so. Yes, I know they were weekdays, is my recollection.
Which days?
And if we later determine that that's something different, we can ask you again, but is that your recollection that it's probably Monday or Tuesday?
I think so. Like I said, I recall them being weekdays.
Okay. I'm gonna have you look at what we've marked as Stakes Exhibit 110. Could you just describe what's in this photograph and whether it's an accurate depiction of that building?
Yeah, so this is Southwest 17th Avenue, right in front of the doors of Oregon Culinary Institute. So Jefferson Street is just a little bit further here to the south. And that crosswalk I talked about is over there. 17th Avenue, back here is Southwest Madison Street. This is Oregon Culinary Institute. This is the man door. Chef Brophy entered that morning. And this is the garage door. This is also a photo, as you can see, it's a Google Street View, a whole different time frame, but just so happens this is Dan Brophy's truck parked there because he was, I guess, would normally frequently park in that location.
So is this a historical Google Map photo?
Yes.
Okay, or screen grab, I suppose.
Yes.
And did you look back over the past several years historically at some of these similar maps, locations?
Yes, we did.
In many of them, did you see Mr. Brophy's truck?
Actually, we did, yes.
And so although this is a historical photo from August of 2017, is that still an accurate depiction of the Culinary Institute and specifically the doors and their orientation?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, we move to admit State's Exhibit 110, the Google map of the Oregon Culinary Institute.
No objection.
All right, 110 is admitted.
And in staying with the Oregon Culinary Institute, I believe we missed a photo earlier, so I'm going to show you what's listed as State's Exhibit 27. Could you describe and orient us to where we are in this photograph?
Yes, so this is inside the Oregon Culinary Institute within that man door that we were just looking at. So outside here is Southwest 17th Avenue running north and south. And Jefferson's over here, Madison's over here. And right out here, just a little further to the south that morning is where Chef Brophy parked his truck. This is the man door that he entered. This is the activation pad to deactivate the alarm. This is a cart that apparently one of the carts that he would use to transport items around or in and out. I believe what this was a cup of possibly tea that Mr. Brophy is probably drinking that morning, as he did by habit, according to Mrs. Brophy. These, I believe, were prescription eyeglass holder, maybe, and then a set of keys.
Okay. And did those keys apparently belong to Mr. Brophy's truck?
Yes, we did learn that later, yes.
And we would move to admit State's Exhibit 27.
No objection.
All right, 27 is admitted.
Thank you, Detective Merrill. I'm just going to look at my notes to see if I have any other questions. Okay, thank you, Detective Merrill, for your patience there. I don't believe I have any other questions for you at this time.
Thank you.
Process examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let's talk first about Exhibit 81. Do you still have that in front of you, or did they snatch it away?
It's gone right now.
I gave it to Ms. Lou.
This is 87.
Did you say 87?
Yeah, I want 81. This is 87. Thank you.
Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 81. And I'm gonna ask you to use your eyeballs, because I know that I'm not gonna be able to read that, it's so itty bitty.
Okay.
One of those pages, though, has two items that were bid on and purchased by Ms. Brophy, and I wonder if you can read to the jury the second item that you didn't mention.
Do you know which page number I'm looking at?
Oh, no, I don't. Want me to look?
Sure.
How good are your eyes?
That's pretty tiny.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you don't see a second purchase of a set of 6 Cambridge Rose Point tall water goblets, tumblers, 6 and an 1/8 inch.
Yeah, I'm kind of making that out. Yeah, I see the Cambridge. That's very difficult to read, but you did pretty good. I see the,
Are you gonna
yeah,
give it to me?
yeah.
Okay.
I saw the Cambridge part on there,
Uh-huh.
but
And that purchase was on, oh lordy, March 15th of 2018 at 19:23. Give me that too.
I can't honestly read it. Sorry, the date I can't read. But
Hopefully the jury will be able to rely on some younger eyes.
okay. Oh, you want it back?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
give it back.
Yep.
And you testified previously that Ms. Brophy had either closed, or I think your word was deleted her eBay account. Is that right?
That's what it appeared on the paperwork. Yes.
And that deletion would have occurred after the purchase of the Rose Point glasses that you and I just discussed?
The date of the deletion I thought said it was in February, but
Well, how would she buy those Rose Point glasses?
I don't know.
And did you find any emails that discussed Ms. Brophy's disappointment in the shipment of the Rose Point glasses?
No, I don't recall looking at that.
You testified about getting some shipping information from a guy named Adam Sale with the United States Postal Service.
Yes.
And do you have those records with you, or you just
I
took
do have
notes
them.
about them?
I do
You
have them, yes.
And you testified that well, first of all, do you know when the gun kit was actually picked up or delivered?
So the ghost gun?
Well, I call
ghost
it a gun kit. You like
I just want to
call it
make
ghost
sure
gun.
we're talking about the same thing. Ghost gun?
The gun kit.
Okay. Not the
The gun build kit.
okay, the ghost gun. So I show the records that he provided us that it was actually January 2nd when they were asked to be delivered, held at the post office.
You know where the Brophies were on January 2nd?
I recall that they were out of town, I believe, on some sort of maybe a vacation.
They were in Canada.
Okay.
And did you have an opportunity to review Mr. Brophy's text messages to Ms. Brophy?
I recall seeing some of them previously.
Do you recall seeing one on December 29th, letting her know that some mail had arrived, and it was a good thing because the mail would be held for another week?
I don't recall that specific one, but
I want to ask you second about the delivery of the slide and barrel from Caroline Colt Company. Do you know the exact time and date that that was delivered?
so it lists February 28th, 2018 at 14:56 Pacific Standard Time.
14:56 Pacific Standard Time. And did you ask Ms. Guay to determine where Ms. Brophy was on that date at that time?
I believe we did.
And did you learn after looking at the cell site location information that Ms. Brophy was in McMinnville, Oregon?
That sounds accurate. Yes.
So that slide would have been delivered to Mr. Brophy?
The way I recall it, it can be delivered to a post box.
Was the delivery address to a post office box?
For the slide and barrel, so it says to the address, their residence.
And you heard testimony that that this delivery would have required a signature, even if the person didn't ask to see proof of the signature.
No, I don't recall that.
You don't?
I recall it could be delivered to a mailbox, and that was sufficient.
Now, I want to see if I can get my head around your testimony regarding the possible visit to this public shooting lane off Highway 26. And you were describing what you thought was possible. Is that right?
What's your question exactly?
Well, you're
Sorry.
describing someone traveling from their home to the highway, driving up a gravel road, getting out of their car as fast as they can, shooting off 17 rounds without putting up a target, and then shooting off 17 more rounds, and then running back to their car.
I don't know about the part about, did you add driving real fast or something? I thought I heard
Oh,
that.
yeah.
No? Okay. Yeah, I would say that was one scenario that we discussed just now. Yes.
That was a possible scenario.
Yes. Okay, I agree with you.
I'm just wondering how this person who's never shot a gun before and hasn't bothered to put a target up would know whether she or he was shooting accurately if things worked out the way you just described.
Question?
My question is, if you don't put a target up to check what you shot, how would you know if you were doing it right?
It depends on the person. They have backdrops. There were things back there, like, if I recall, it was like either rocks or something like that, and like a sort of like a berm that you could fire into, and I think you can see your shots being fired.
Just go check the berm.
No, I think you can see when you shoot into a berm, the dirt.
You heard the medical examiner describe the shots that killed Mr. Brophy.
I actually was not in the courtroom during that.
You've read that report.
I've read the report, yes.
What you know about those shots is that one went through his spine, through his lung, through his aorta, and then through his heart.
Yes, that sounds
And that
correct.
the other one followed a track that was very, very similar, only from the other direction.
From the chest, correct.
2 parallel tracks.
Correct.
Each shot incredibly lethal.
Yes.
You've testified about the compilation video that you helped Ms. Guay prepare.
Yes.
And I guess there's several compilation videos, is that right?
I believe there were, different versions, yes.
And at least in some versions, you show the band, or what you call the band, turning left onto Southwest 17th. Is that right? And
From where and what time?
the PGE, let's talk about 708 or 709, the PGE
Yes.
camera.
Yes.
And were you able to see any of these distinguishing characteristics from this PGE camera?
No, that was following the track as it went around the circle at Goose Hollow, and then seeing the only vehicle appear right after that.
But you don't have any of these distinguishing characteristics shown in the PGE video?
No.
I was looking as you described the Bellagio video. I could not see any damage, this distinctive.
Sustained.
Do you recall seeing in the video this distinctive damage, this rust line that you've described for the jury?
Yes.
You could see it in that video.
Yes.
Oh, you talked about Mr. Bresciani, and you said that, no, he didn't say anything about, Ms. Brophy's request for secrecy.
I don't recall that, no.
Okay. And counsel said, but maybe you wouldn't know whether he had talked to any other officer.
I'm not aware of him talking to any other officer.
But at the time, you were one of the primary detectives on the case.
Yes,
And the assisting officers who were helping you with this investigation would report back to you or Detective Posey.
yes.
And I think you said that this was a significant enough statement that certainly you would have remembered it.
This, if that statement, if I'd heard it, yes, I think I would have.
And the other detectives and investigators who were assisting you were smart enough to know that that was an important statement if he made it.
Yes, I think so.
But nobody reported back to you that he'd made that statement.
No.
Is there anything else? Okay. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Sorry, I'm just taking a note here, Detective Merrill. Right, here's my thought here. Sorry about that. Okay, Detective Merrill, since we have the eBay records, I don't want to leave there any confusion here. You stated that the registration apparently for the new eBay account took place on February 19th, 2018.
Correct.
Okay, and it looks like there was a couple of purchases, a Glock 17 Gen 4 slide and barrel, and these rosebud glasses of some sort.
Yes.
And then there was discussion about when the eBay account was deleted. I think you said that you thought maybe it was sometime in late February, but we have the records. Is it fair to say that it was actually sometime in late March? I mean, we can look at the records, but.
It makes more sense to me based on everything I recall. I just didn't recall the exact date.
Okay, so if it was deleted sometime in late March, that would actually be an open account when those rosebud glasses were purchased.
Yes, yes, it would.
And Miss Maxfield asked you if you recall some sort of communication between Miss Brophy and eBay or maybe the seller directly complaining about the rosebud glasses or something. You don't
Yes.
recall anything like that?
I don't.
Do you recall anything about Miss Brophy having a problem with the slide and barrel?
No.
Miss Maxfield asked you about the slide and barrel from eBay being delivered.
Yes.
And that at the time that Mr. Sales reported that that was delivered, that Miss Brophy was possibly somewhere in McMinnville at the time,
I think so, yes.
and that Mr. Brophy was likely in or around his home based on the cell tower.
Correct.
I just want to clarify that based on what you knew from the slide and barrel that was mailed to the Brophy residence from eBay, that didn't actually require a signature, and it could actually just be put in your mailbox.
That was my understanding, yes.
Okay. And was there any indication through your investigation that Mr. Brophy actually ever even saw that package?
None. No.
Okay. You weren't provided with some sort of signature or verification or information through interviews that Mr. Brophy had received this firearm?
No, I was not.
But you actually have no indication not only that he didn't receive that box, but you don't even know if he even saw it, meaning if it was placed in the mailbox and Mrs. Brophy got the mail when she returned home from McMinnville, it's possible that Mr. Brophy didn't even know that that thing was delivered.
Yes, that's possible.
Is it also possible that even had he gone out and got the mail and brought the package in, it's addressed to Mrs. Brophy, that he didn't open it?
It's very possible, yes.
So So I'm going to talk to you real briefly about what Miss Maxfield told you, or sorry, was asking you about this shooting range that you visited. We talked about, I asked you how quickly you could unload 18 rounds, 17 plus the one in the barrel, switch out that magazine, shoot the remaining 18 in the new magazine. And you stated that it's possible to do that in under 45 seconds.
Yes,
We doubled that time to a minute 30.
correct.
Let's go even further with that. With a true beginner, it's going to take some more time, possibly, to drop the magazine, put the new one in, double the time. Are we at about 3 minutes then?
Approximately, and I would also say that if you're going to go out as a beginner and shoot a gun, I'm thinking you're probably doing some other, taking some time, maybe looking on videos on how to do things, so you're not going out there and shooting yourself by accident or having an accidental discharge.
Sure. So maybe doing some research on how to load, clean, disassemble, checking possible kickback on a firearm, things like that.
Yes, yes,
So being ultra conservative here, we could shoot off 36 rounds in a matter of under 3 minutes. Easy.
yes.
Now I want to talk to you about, there was some indication that there was a suggestion that there was no target set up. Detective, in your experience, how hard would it be to set up a paper target from, say, less than 10 feet away?
Quite easy. You just walk out and affix it to something. You can put cans on top of a berm. A target, you could, if it's got a little grade, place it, put some rocks around, or stick some kind of, things to keep it up into it.
In your experience, different firing ranges, especially during police training, do you shoot at various targets?
Usually we shoot at a paper silhouette type target that has different images on it.
Have you had any experience shooting at metal targets?
Yes.
Meaning small stationary metal targets that have targets on that when they get struck, they swing?
Yes, I have, yes.
Okay. Sometimes those can be relatively pretty small, right?
Yes.
And easily to move.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Is there any wood in that area, say fallen branches, sticks, things like that?
Yes.
Could you simply just walk 10 feet out from the range, grab a piece of wood, prop it up, and shoot at that?
You may not, yes, you could, or you may not even have to do that because there are things just naturally laying all over logs, things like that, that you can just look at and decide to use it as your own target.
And sticking with this hypothetical distance of 10 feet or less, in your experience, if you were to shoot an object from 10 feet away, are you going to be able to see, without having to approach, are you going to be able to see a reaction from that item by being struck by a bullet?
It's my experience, yes.
The one doesn't actually have to set up a target in order to shoot something at close range.
No, you don't.
And even if you did, say in the scenario where you're standing up a piece of wood, could that be done in a matter of a minute or two or less?
Of course.
Let's say it took 5 minutes to set up a target, and you add that to the 3 minutes. We're now at about 8 minutes total from arrival, setting up a target, and firing off upwards of 36 rounds.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
So to be even more conservative, 10 minutes. Would that be plenty of time to do everything that we're talking about?
Yes, it would.
And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is Ms. Maxfield talked to you about the lethality, I believe is the term she used, of the shots that were fired on Mr. Brophy on June 2nd. In your experience, in shooting at, say, a distance of less than 10 feet, does a handgun become remarkably more accurate than, say, at 30 feet?
Yes, it does.
What about at a range of, let's say, the first shot is at 6, 7, 8 feet, and the second shot is in a matter of maybe a foot or two? Does it come even more accurate on that second shot?
It becomes much more accurate in my experience, yes.
And is it even more accurate when your target is not necessarily moving?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think I have any further questions. Thank you, Detective.
Thank you.
Okay, you can step down. Since we are ending a little early today, why don't we take our break now and be back on the record a little bit after 3:15, and I guess a little closer to 3:20, but maybe in between those two.
Okay, great. I will go off record and I will mute the WebEx. All rise.
And the state will call Jeff McDaniel.
Thank you. I was just about that. All right. And so McDaniel, if you can just come on into the witness box, but stay standing, and my clerk will give you enough. I guess I should say sergeant. When you're ready.
Please raise your right hand. Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you may be seated. And then because we're being recorded, please state and spell your first and last name.
Name is Jeffrey McDaniel, Jeffrey, McDaniel.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant McDaniel, how are you currently employed?
I'm a sergeant with the Portland Police Bureau.
And how long have you been in law enforcement?
I've been with the Police Bureau for a little over 21 years.
And what is your current assignment?
Currently, I'm a patrol sergeant for North Precinct.
And how long have you worked in that particular capacity?
I've been a sergeant since July of 2011. I went to the detective division as a supervisor for about a 3-year window in there, and then I've been back on the street on patrol for about 6 months or so.
And back in September of 2018, do you recall what capacity you were working at that point?
Yeah, I was a supervisor for, it was called the Detective Coordination Team, which is, it's a fancy name, but ultimately it was the investigations they did were more property crimes related. But one of our major tasks or major focuses was helping the other detective units, such as homicide, assault, sex assault, with surveillances and taking people into custody, things like that.
All right. And so if another unit of detectives, particular detectives assigned to a case, needed like more bodies essentially to help, that's what your unit would help do?
Yeah, so if they were busy doing their investigation part and they needed like a surveillance package or something, they would tap on us to go do that.
And were you working in that capacity specifically on September 5th of 2018?
Yes.
And were you and some of your team asked to assist with the contact and arrest of Nancy Brophy?
Yes.
And do you remember about how many of you there were?
4 or 5 of us, I believe, that day.
And so were you kind of running point on that?
Yeah, so I was the supervisor for the unit, so coordinating, talking with the other detective units. In this particular case, it was a homicide division, and just coordinating.
And did you and then the detectives that you were with go to Nancy Brophy's home that day?
Yes, we did.
And following this incident, did you personally write a report?
No, I did not.
Did you direct other people in your other detectives that were with you to either write reports or convey their information to homicide detectives?
Not specifically direct them. I know Detective Myers did. Detective Andrews did not. So.
And by did you mean wrote a report and did not write a report?
Correct.
Okay. And then you or they were coordinating whatever happened, or excuse me, communicating whatever happened to either Detectives Merrill and Posey directly or to their sergeant?
Correct.
And that was Sergeant Wadham at the time?
Yes, it was.
All right. And so were you present during the contact and arrest of Nancy Brophy?
Yes, I was.
And I really just have one question for you, Sergeant. As Ms. Brophy was taken into custody, what, if anything, do you recall her saying?
So Detective Andrew had contacted her first and was placing her into custody. And as I was walking up to her just to make sure that was going okay, she said something to the effect of, you guys think I murdered my husband, or you must think I murdered my husband. And it was just kind of stuck. Thought it was odd. So.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Cross.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. May the witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Sergeant McDaniel, you can step down.
Thank you, sir.
And Your Honor, the state will recall Detective Darren Posey.
All right. All right, Detective Posey, we will have you sworn in again since it's a different day.
Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Then you may be seated, and then because we're being recorded, I'll ask you to please state your name and spell it.
Darren Posey, Darrenposey.
And you
All
can,
right.
oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead. When you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Detective Posey, we wanted to bring you back to cover a specific topic, and that is, in the course of the investigation, did you come up with an idea to create a video to show the how a slide and barrel could be swapped on a firearm?
Yes, I did.
First, could you explain what your thought process was and why you created and wanted to create this video?
Essentially, what I wanted to do is just be able to show visually that you could remove a slide and barrel that had been zip tied from a Glock frame and then put on another one that was not zip tied, same slide barrel assembly, and then basically do a function check in both situations and then remove that slide and barrel that was not zip tied and then put the slide and barrel that was zip tied back on.
Okay. And so you're saying you wanted to create a visual for that process?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And so what did you do in order to make this video?
So we went to JMB Firearms and asked if we could just use some of their inventory, which they happened to have in stock at the time. That was a Glock 17 Generation 4 9mm handgun, and essentially have the zip ties that they use for their gun shows attached to one of the slides, and then have a slide off of another gun that did not have a zip tie.
Okay. And you covered one of my next questions, I think, which was part of the purpose of doing this with JMB Firearms in particular, in order to have access and use the specific type of zip ties that they use on their firearms?
Yeah, I just wanted to be able to use what they had and what they would typically use at the gun show.
Okay. And we're going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 22. I'll play just a brief, when it comes up there, we'll play it for just a brief moment. Okay, and we'll go ahead and pause there. Is this the video that you were part of in making?
Yes.
And why don't we go ahead and play it through? Okay. So I want to talk about just a couple of points within that video. First of all, just looking at the timer on the bottom, it looks like this whole process took less than 40 seconds. Is that about right?
Yes.
And so a couple of points I want to look at are, one, you stated that one of the purposes was to show that the slide and barrel, although it's zip tied, you can still remove without disturbing that zip tie. And is that what was ultimately accomplished in this video?
Correct.
Okay. And you said in my initial questioning that in the middle of all this, or when you replaced the slide and barrel, that a function check was done. Could you describe what a function check is, please?
Essentially, a function check is just to make sure that the trigger engages the firing pin, and that the gun is essentially operational.
And if we could play it one more time. That point, is this the function check portion?
Correct. He's just making sure that the gun's trigger engages.
And Your Honor, at this point, the state would move to admit State's Exhibit 22.
No objection.
All right, 22 is admitted.
Okay, and I don't believe I have any further questions. Thank you, Detective Posey.
Cross-examination.
Detective Posey, you made this video to show that a slide change was not impossible.
I made this video to show that it is possible, yes.
But your video tells us nothing about what actually happened, does it?
No, it's just showing how the operation works.
Just more possible. Thank you. No further questions.
All right, any redirect?
Just Detective Posey, not that it's not only impossible, but was it also shown to show the relative ease in which switching out the sliding barrels can be done?
That is correct.
I have no further questions.
Okay. You can step down.
Thank you.
State's next witness.
Your Honor, we promised to be done by 4:30. We managed to do it by 3:35.
Okay, all right.
So I think that's all our witnesses for today.
All right. I want everyone just to know for tomorrow that I will have, we'll start at 9 o'clock again tomorrow. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I'm going to have another hearing in here, hopefully done in a half hour, but it may take up to an hour. So I'm just giving everyone the warning that we may sort of alter our time frame for lunch tomorrow and take lunch at 12:30 to eliminate a lot of downtime for the jury and for the attorneys. But with that, we'll be done for the day.
We'll go off the record. All right.